Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As always, it is Nick here, back with your daily crypto news and analysis. And today we are going to be talking about Ripple and XRP, as well as the vast majority of crypto and finance. And with that being said, let's just dive in. And let's start off with the main subject of this entire video, which is the fact that we are now officially in the Great Reset. I do think that we are already starting to see this becoming a reality. I think that really going back over 3 years ago now, when the pandemic really hit, I think that that was the accelerator for this. I think that that was the starting point for all of this and what's happening right now around our financial system. So as we really kind of look at that, I do want to address a few things. And the biggest thing that I do want to address is the fact that we are now in an orchestrated currency collapse, right? This is their plan. They wanted the currencies of the world today to collapse, specifically the US dollar. And this is all going to be replaced with digital IDs and CBDCs. I've talked about this, right? I've addressed this many times on this video or on this channel that I do want to address in this video, which is the fact that, as we really kind of look at what's going on around the BRICS, around the US dollar, de-dollarization, all of these narratives are piling up. And what they will do is, one, we will either see them say, hey, like, we need to combat this. We need to, fight back. We need to have some sort of major advancement. And what it is, it's the great race in technology. Very similar to the great space race, who could go to space first. It's kind of the same thing around CBDCs and digital currencies now. But I do think that all of this is orchestrated. And one thing that I really want to address as well is the struggles of the world. Anthony Welfare, who is an individual from Ripple, he posted this. And we do see signs that everyday people are struggling. Despite the political rhetoric, the ordinary people are in a recession. It's only time until it hits the economies and stock markets very hard. And here we have the salary a single person needs to get by in the US state. This is the #1 trending right now. Number 2 is 28-year-old mom is on track to make $180,000 a year without a college degree. But then we also do see 28-year-old's side hustle makes up to $113.5K a year. It only costs $50 to start. 25-year-old tried 23 side hustles before launching his company. Here's his advice. Now, again, within this, what are we really kind of looking at? Because all of this doesn't sound too bad, right? It's the idea that they are selling the dream. People are obviously hurting right now. They're trying to get by. And for CNBC, they live off of people clicking, people watching. And what they are selling is the dream. Hey, look it. This is the salary that somebody needs to get by in the US. #1 trending. But then we have, hey, look it, you can make this much money without a college degree. Or, hey, you can make this much money just by, $50. Or, hey, look it, you can now do all these side hustles and possibly even start your own company, which is the best advice. Like, they are selling the dream because guess what? Right now, we are in crisis mode. I've said it over on Twitter. I said, we are in crisis mode right now. The crisis is the cost of living. Listen, I don't need to tell you guys this. I'm sure all of you are aware of this. You go to the gas pump. How much is gas costing now? You go to the grocery store. I mean, the other day, I maybe got 15 items, maybe, not even, probably 10, and paid $240. I mean, we're talking about basic necessities here. Nothing too crazy. $240 for 10 things. And I know for a fact that going back 2 years ago, for an example, those same items would have been 50% less or possibly even 60% less. And even the CPI data, right? Like, they don't want to tell you the actual inflation. They don't want to, give you the CPI data on utilities, on food, on things that actually matter. No, they're looking at inflation on idiotic things. Because guess what? It plays into their narrative that, hey, look, inflation's coming down. Everything's okay. Don't panic. It's the same thing that was happening with banks back in March, right? Like, when we seen the banks collapsing, guess what we've seen from the Fed? Guess what we've seen from the Treasury? Hey, liquidity is very strong in the banking sector right now. Banks are very strong. Trying to tell you, hey, it's okay. They're trying to comfort you. Because guess what? They know, as well as we know, that it's not, right? The house of cards is crumbling. And when you see this is their plan and has been their plan, remember the quote, "You'll own nothing and be happy." We are nearly there. Soon, many won't be able to afford the cost of living. This is all leading up to the Big Bang event to introduce CBDCs. They will incentivize CBDCs by wiping debt. It's all fake anyways. There could not be a better time to begin learning ways to maximize building wealth to escape the system. And listen, although, I do like the idea that CNBC is pushing these ideas on how to make more money, the problem is that almost all of these ways are failed ways. I've always said it around YouTube and even outside of YouTube and Discord, and I've always told friends as well, that honestly, the best way to make more money on the side is by learning lucrative skills. We're talking about skills where, you can apply it to Fiverr stores or, stores that you could sell a service. Even drop servicing, right? Like I've talked about drop servicing where you are going through somebody else for a lot cheaper, but you're overcharging the clients. And I know that a lot of people think that that is a terrible way of looking at it, but guess what? There's a lot of people that do this, okay? In fact, many businesses run like that. When you call, if you call somebody to get your floors done in your house, for an example, well, guess what? You're talking to the boss that's going to send out an employee. He's going to overcharge you so that he can pocket some change, but also his employee gets paid. I mean, it's literally how the world runs. But as we really kind of look at this, I don't think that there could ever be a better time to start learning these other ways of maximizing wealth, because as we really kind of look at things, people are getting swallowed up with debt. The best way to go about this as well is to only shop for necessities and also stockpile, food and also water, things that are, like I said, necessities. Because guess what? Like, as we really kind of look at what's happening around the world, yes, CBDCs are coming. They are going to become a big deal. And a lot of people say, well, I just won't use them. I will, completely deny using a CBDC. The problem is that they will incentivize the general public, and the general public will run out and go and get a CBDC if they are wiping their debt, because a lot of people are swallowed up by their debt. And also look at the World Coin, right? That was a perfect example of how the general public will react to a possible CBDC. And also over here, Jamdex, Jamaican CBDC. Transport operators could be integrating the Jamdex CBDC into their systems by the upcoming year. Things are moving very fast around CBDCs. The infrastructure that most of these areas run on is being upgraded and integrating CBDCs within their system. Also over here, from a pool of 483 survey participants and 12 financial market infrastructures, FMIs, a substantial 87% recognize CBDCs as a feasible avenue to abbreviate settlement cycles by the year 2026. This is from Citi, by the way. Like, this is a Citi survey. Also, over here, Ripple's Indian partner joins Digital Rupee CBDC project. Interesting. So Yes Bank has announced that it launched unified payments interface interoperability to take part in RBI operations with the digital INR. This is very interesting. I think that as we really kind of look at what's happening here, things are moving pretty quickly in a lot of these other areas. We're not seeing a lot of reporting on it, especially in the US. I don't even think that mainstream media is covering like anything worth noting. But as we really kind of look at this is something significant to mention, especially around Ripple. What do you see from Wrath of Kahneman here? Yes Bank, a Ripple partner, now live with UPI interoperability on the RBI CBDC app. It's domestic, and India only allows inward remittance. But interesting, as for the first time, a bank connect to a CBDC pay network also housing a RippleNet connection. And yeah, this is definitely interesting, and we even see here this move is set to significantly expand the reach of the digital rupee and underscores the bank's commitment towards propelling digital innovations and providing a wide range of transactional options for users across the nation. And remember what I've said, right? Like, Ripple is becoming a big player within the CBDC space. And also remember, right, like, as we look at what's going on here, a lot of these nations that are collaborating with Ripple, for an example, are BRICS nations. The BRICS are connected to the G20. The G20 is the home of course, the US as well. So if we actually look at this, right, is there a major war going on? Is Russia and the US actually fighting? Well, first off, we need to take a step back and realize why this entire scenario is even happening. It's the pushback against the US dollar. All right, we weaponized it, and a lot of these nations want to push back against it. And what we are doing is creating this narrative that, they are challenging the US dollar. We need a narrative. We need to play off of that narrative. We have the solution. The solution is a CBDC. It's as simple as that. The CBDC will decentralize the global economy. And what will happen is we will have a need for a bridge currency. XRP could very well be that bridge currency. We already know Ripple is working with a lot of these nations, like I've said. Ripple has already been connected back to some of the global organizations, like, for example, the BIS. And this is just another one to really kind of look at because, again, this is India. This is a huge area. And we even see down here that Ripple bets big on CBDC experiments across the globe. Since 2018, Yes Bank has been collaborating with US fintech Decacorn Ripple to help facilitate cross-border remittances from various regions of the globe, an official statement said. While it's unclear whether RippleNet and XRP are used in the digital INR development, Ripple has already fielded some successful CBDC products across the globe. And of course, listen, we have no idea in terms of how this is going to work, but we can kind of connect the dots. Going all the way back to 2017, for example, we see here, Ripple-powered instant payment services now live with Axis Bank, Rack Bank, and Standard Chartered. Within this, if you actually scroll down and read this full breakdown, there's a lot of connections here with some significant players like Singapore and even India around trade corridors. And its corridor is worth $15 billion. It's also, we see down here, it's also never been more important for retail remittances to be instant, efficient, and secure between the UAE and India. We already know Ripple has been building out a solid connection within India for a while, and they even recognize the evolving demands of their customers, leaning to better serve the needs today and also into tomorrow. I do think that as we really kind of look at what Ripple has been doing, they've already connected some very significant dots. They've been really kind of building these relationships forever. And I think that this is just another one to really kind of look at closely and wait to see more information on. But it's definitely one that I've been looking at and watching for, especially around a lot of the BRICS nations. Now, also in terms of CBDCs, I think that it's pretty clear that they are on the rise, right? All of these major developments are kind of leaning towards that way, but I think that everyone that has been watching crypto content for a while, I think that you all get the idea that CBDCs are inevitable, right? 90% of central banks are exploring CBDCs, not because they will fail, but because they know that they are coming. But also we know that just recently, 93% of central banks are now actually exploring this. And this is from August 19th, right? This is August 19th, this Ripple post. And this is just recently back in July. So I'm not too sure if it is 90 or 93%, but it is around there, right? And even if it is just 90%, that's significant. And we already know that from recent reports from the BIS that 24 CBDCs could be live by 2030. Now, this is going to take some time, but their overall goal here is to eliminate physical cash. A cashless society has always been in their scope for a while. Now, it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen immediately, but it is going to happen over time. And I think that we already kind of started to see that narrative being pushed heavily during the pandemic when, of course, the World Economic Forum was talking about how, physical cash is dirty. We, already are seeing a decline in physical cash usage because nobody was leaving their house. Nobody was actually buying things. But it is a narrative that they utilize to talk about this digital society and this, way that we could be ushering into the digital age. So as we really kind of look at this, it's definitely interesting. But everyone is concerned about CBDCs, and I think that it is for good measure. One of the biggest things that I really kind of look back at is the October 2022 quote of Matt Hamilton, where he did actually say, regardless of whether you believe that or not, in terms of how CBDCs are going to be utilized in terms of Orwellian surveillance coins that will enslave humanity, the point is that XRP is not a CBDC. It is actually the antidote to any imaginary or real threat that may be posed by CBDCs because it is fully decentralized. A lot of people bring up the escrow that Ripple does hold, but you got to understand that Ripple actually doesn't control that escrow. That is already being unlocked every single month, and they don't really control that. They can't do much with that escrow. But also, as we really kind of look at that, We go over here to James Wallace, going back to May 19th, and we even see here CBDC is likely to be implemented in pretty much every country around the world, says Ripple's James Wallace. It's coming. There's going to be some great advantages to it, great use cases that people will benefit from. Now listen, before I even play this 53-second long clip, I want you guys to understand that I don't trust anyone. Even if they are a part of Ripple, I still don't trust it. I don't like the idea of CBDCs simply because we know that central banks have failed us time and time again. Tell me one thing that a central bank has ever done to benefit us. I guarantee you that you can't find anything. Because listen, as we look at central banks, they only care about a few things. Control, greed, and I'm trying to think about another one, but I don't think that there is another one. They only care about control and greed. They don't really care about, financial well-being. They don't care about the health of the economy. In fact, like I said, we are seeing an orchestrated collapse of our traditional economy so that they could usher in this digital economy and usher us into the digital age of finance. We are seeing the transformation happening in real time. But listen closely to this clip.
Immediate reaction is, I think there's some more education needed in the marketplace. I think there's a lot of discussion around a CBDC, what it is, what it isn't. Is it the government going to be spying on citizens? All this kind of thing. So I think there's a education required. At the end of the day, I think the federal government, trumps state governments in this. But I think really, I don't think the citizens have anything to be concerned about. CBDC is a digital representation of fiat currency. It's likely to get implemented in pretty much every country around the world. It's coming. There are going to be some great advantages to it, great use cases that will, people will get benefit from. So I see news like that. I think, okay, well, this will probably disappear when people get a bit smarter, a bit more educated about what's really going to happen. Immediate reaction.
And of course, listen, the biggest thing that I have and the biggest question that I have around CBDCs is why not just have a stablecoin? What is a CBDC going to do that a stablecoin can't? And that's the biggest question that I have. Because realistically speaking, we don't need CBDCs. I think CBDCs are beneficial for wholesale. So central bank to central bank, I think that that's great. In terms of retail use, I think that we could very well have a successful stablecoin and that's it. Which is how I look at how this will work. I think that CBDCs are more so for wholesale, and I think that stablecoins are more so for retail use. But either way, we are here, right? We are in the crisis mode. I think everything leading up to this point in time really kind of was the all by design move, if you will, to usher in this new system. And I do think that Ripple is behind it. I think that Ripple has a very large role to play in this system, and that's not me being biased or anything like that. I think that there is no coincidences here, and I think that Ripple working with the BIS, the IMF, the World Bank, all of these global organizations, meeting with elites, being in the private rooms with these elites, like for example, Christine Lagarde, Tobias Adrian. I mean, these are very large leaders. Also, you have, all of the major entities from world central banks. It's no coincidence that Ripple was working with all of these major players. They brought in the SEC lawsuit at one of the best times, in my opinion, to shake the retail sector out and shake them to their core. And I think that it worked, right? I think that for the most part, a lot of people around the XRP community have already been shaken out. And I think that the time as well is one of the biggest tools of shaking the retail sector out. I've talked about it many times. The retail sector is extremely impatient. They won't wait. So if you really kind of look at that, suppressing the price of an asset, having an asset not have an all-time high in well over 2,000 plus days, and at the same time, you have all of these other coins going crazy. Well, guess what? The retail sector is starting to get shaky. They don't want to miss out. You're seeing all these big gains. All right, I'll just sell my XRP and I'll jump into something else. And it happens just like that. How many people probably bought into the green candle when the SEC news just recently came out? I'm sure a lot. And guess what? They're now wrecked. That's why the retail sector continues to lose, right? Because they play off of their emotions. That's why I always say, you need to be emotionless in this game. But like I've said many times, what we are seeing is a completely reimagined world. And they even say this here from the World Economic Forum founder and executive chairman, Klaus Schwab, the pandemic represents a rare but narrow window of opportunity to reflect, reimagine, and reset our world. Ever since then, we have seen nothing but major events leading up to the Big Bang. And it's either you see this or you don't, and that's totally fine, right? Like I've always said, like it's totally fine if, you know, a lot of you don't agree with me. It's okay. I'm not here to tell you guys like, hey, you need to believe this. No, I'm just telling you guys what I personally see happening here. And I think that the days of, you know, free money, easy money, going out, going into debt, just paying it off endlessly and not owning the actual asset or whatever it is, I think that those days are nearly done. And I think that we are ushering into the digital age of society. I think that we are going to see a big reset, and it is going to wipe a lot of people out. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because I'm a free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord down in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Peace out.